In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine is a third-person action game set in the dystopian, grim-dark science fiction universe of Warhammer 40,000. Developed by Relic Entertainment and published by THQ, the game was released in 2011. The game takes place in a vast and sprawling galaxy, where humanity has expanded across countless star systems. However, these are dark times, with the galaxy in a state of constant war and chaos. First, I want to start this video by briefly explaining the history of Warhammer 40,000 and the role of the Space Marines in this universe. The most dominant human faction is the Imperium of Man, a vast and authoritarian empire led by the God Emperor of mankind, who is kept alive on a life support system. The Imperium is a theocratic regime with a highly organized and brutal society. It is constantly beset by external threats, such as alien races and demonic entities. The galaxy is teeming with various alien species, including the Eldar, Orcs, Tyranids, and the insidious Tau Empire. Each race has its unique characteristics, technologies, and motivations. At the heart of this expansive and captivating universe stands one of its most iconic and revered factions, the Space Marines, also known as the Adeptus Astartes. These genetically enhanced super soldiers are the ultimate defenders of humanity. Space Marines are not ordinary humans. They are forged through a rigorous and transformative process. Their origins trace back to the gene seeds of the Emperor of Mankind, the godlike ruler of the Imperium of Man. These gene seeds are used to genetically alter and enhance ordinary human recruits, imbuing them with superhuman abilities and resilience. The transformation is a grueling and dangerous process, but those who survive become something more than human. What sets Space Marines apart are their remarkable physical and mental attributes. They are larger, stronger, and faster than regular humans, with heightened senses that make them exceptional warriors. Their power armor further augments their capabilities, offering protection against enemy fire and integrating a range of built-in weapons and systems. The Space Marines are organized into distinct chapters, each with their unique traditions, culture, and combat specialties. There are many chapters, such as the Ultramarines, the Blood Angels, and the Space Wolves, among many others, who are often associated with specific colors and symbols, which play a vital role in their identity and the chapter's history. This diversity adds depth to the faction, showcasing the rich tapestry of the Warhammer 40K universe. The enduring popularity of the Space Marines within the Warhammer 40K universe can be attributed to their iconic status. Their timeless appeal lies in their embodiment of heroism, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty in the face of insurmountable adversity. Now let's get back to the main plot. Graia was a strategically important forge world in Segmentum Tempestus. It housed many manufactorums, some of which were able to produce titans. In late 41st millennia, Graia was invaded by a million-strong orc horde, led by warboss Grimskull, who looked to raid the planet of its powerful weapons, including the titans of Legio Astraman. This conflict later became known as the Grimskull War. Graia issued a call for help. Given its strategic importance, a full-scale liberation fleet that included squads from various Space Marine chapters was assembled on Baka. Warp travel to Graia would take from 5 to 37 standard days, and call for help was issued to all Imperial forces in the vicinity. Upon arrival, the Ultramarines force, elements of the Second Company under the command of Captain Titus, find the Orc invaders have overwhelmed the Graian Planetary Defense Force and the Cadian reinforcements as they hold air superiority and control Graia's planetary defense weapons, which prevents reinforcements from landing. The Ultramarines' Thunderhawk cannot reach the surface, and Titus decides that instead of retreating, he and 2 other Astartes will land using jump packs and attack the invaders immediately. Titus, along with his loyal squad mates, Sergeant Sidonis and battle brother Leandros, are dispatched to the beleaguered planet to confront the Orc menace. The opening chapters of the game immerse players in intense battles against waves of Orc forces, setting the tone for the brutal warfare that defines the Warhammer 40,000 universe. As the Orc invasion intensifies, Captain Titus and his squad venture deep into the industrial complex known as the Manufactorum. Here they engage in relentless combat against the Orcs, while uncovering clues hinting at the orcs' interest in a mysterious and dangerous artifact, the warp device. Manufactorums are vast and labyrinthine complexes that can cover entire city blocks or even stretch for miles beneath the surface of a planet. Their sheer size reflects the immense scale of production and manufacturing taking place within. The Imperium views industrial production with a religious fervor. The operation of a manufactorum is often accompanied by rituals, prayers, and incantations to appease the machine god and ensure the smooth operation of machinery. Now, when it comes to gameplay, Space Marine primarily revolves around intense and visceral combat. The combat is satisfying, with a wide variety of weapons and melee moves at your disposal. The game encourages players to switch between ranged and melee combat fluidly. The melee chainsword and thunderhammer combat in particular is a highlight, delivering a real sense of power as you carve through enemies. Warhammer 40,000 is known for its rich and dark lore, and Space Marine does a decent job of immersing players in this universe. While the plot may not be groundbreaking, it captures the essence of the Warhammer 40,000 setting, with its grim atmosphere, massive battles, and the constant struggle against overwhelming odds. As we progress through the game, Captain Titus's journey leads to encounters with the Imperial Guard, a vast army of ordinary humans that forms a crucial part of the Imperium's defenses. The presence of the Guard serves as a reminder of the vast military apparatus of the Empire and the collective effort necessary to defend humanity. The game takes a darker turn with the arrival of Inquisitor Drogan, an enigmatic agent of the Inquisition. Drogan reveals the sinister potential of the warp device, a weapon capable of catastrophic destruction, and its significance in the ongoing conflict. This revelation deepens the complexity of the narrative and underscores the moral dilemmas that permeate the Warhammer 40,000 universe. As far as graphics are concerned, the game's visuals are quite impressive, with detailed character models, environments, and a gritty, industrial aesthetic that suits the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The sound design is equally impressive, featuring a powerful and atmospheric soundtrack along with excellent voice acting that adds depth to the characters. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine features a wide array of weapons, reflecting the iconic and devastating firepower found in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Some of the most memorable weapons are the following. Bolter. The bolter is the standard ranged weapon of a Space Marine. It fires explosive rounds, making it highly effective against a variety of targets, including infantry and armored foes. In the game, players can wield different variants of the bolter, such as the bolter, stalker bolter, and heavy bolter, each with unique characteristics. Bolt pistol. The bolt pistol is a secondary sidearm that Space Marines carry alongside their main weapons. It is useful for finishing off enemies in close combat or when conserving ammunition for primary weapons. Las Cannon. The Las Cannon is a heavy energy weapon that fires powerful laser beams capable of penetrating heavy armor. It is typically used against large and heavily armored targets, such as vehicles and monstrous creatures. Melt-A-Gun. The Melt-A-Gun is a short-ranged weapon that fires a high-intensity beam of heat capable of melting through armored targets. It is particularly effective against heavily armored foes, making it a potent anti-armor choice. Chainsword. The chainsword is a versatile melee weapon that combines a chainsaw blade with a sword hilt. It is ideal for close combat, allowing Space Marines to tear through enemy infantry and engage in brutal melee executions. Players can execute devastating melee attacks and combos with the chainsword. The list goes on. In total, there are 10 weapons available, but these were my favorites. Now back to the main story. Captain Titus's mission becomes even more perilous as Chaos Space Marines led by the powerful Chaos Sorcerer Nemeroth infiltrate Graia. Players are thrust into battles against these malevolent forces, further highlighting the existential threats that the Imperium faces beyond the Orc menace. The narrative takes a dramatic turn as the truth about the warp device is unveiled. Created as a weapon of last resort by the Imperium, the device has the power to annihilate entire planets. Captain Titus grapples with the moral implications of this weapon and becomes determined to prevent its use. In the game's concluding moments, players are presented with a pivotal choice regarding the fate of the warp device. This choice carries profound consequences, shaping the game's ending and leaving players to ponder the weight of their decisions. Space Marine offers a relatively short single-player campaign that can be completed in about 8 to 10 hours. While it's enjoyable, it may not have the same level of replayability as some other titles. The multiplayer mode extends the game's lifespan, but the player base may have dwindled since its release. In multiplayer, players can choose to play as either the Adeptus Astartes Space Marines or the Chaos Space Marines. The game offers several multiplayer game modes. My favorite mode is Exterminatus. Players have the ability to customize their multiplayer characters with various weapons, armor, and accessories. Also, players can create custom loadouts by selecting primary and secondary weapons, as well as equipment such as grenades and special abilities. Loadout customization allows for strategic diversity in multiplayer matches. As players participate in multiplayer battles, they earn experience points that contribute to their character's level progression. Advancing in levels unlocks new weapons, perks, and appearance customization options. It's worth noting that while the multiplayer mode added depth and replayability to the game, the focus of Space Marine is primarily on its single-player campaign, which follows the story of Captain Titus and his battles against orcs and chaos forces. The multiplayer mode offers a different experience, emphasizing competitive combat between Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines in various iconic Warhammer 40,000 settings. The game's narrative underscores the relentless nature of war, the sacrifices made in its name, and the constant struggle for survival in a universe filled with horrors and secrets. Ultimately, the player's choices shape the fate of Graia and the warp device, leaving a lasting impression of the grim and uncompromising world of Warhammer 40,000. Overall, Space Marine is a very fun game for Warhammer 40,000 fans and those looking for an immersive, action-packed gaming experience. While it has some minor shortcomings, its strengths in combat and storytelling make it a valuable addition to the Warhammer 40,000 game franchise. The game finishes with Titus boarding the Inquisitor's ship, surrounded by Templars while his fellow Ultramarines look on with Lieutenant Mira, Leandros only turning and walking away in relative shame due to the captain's words. Titus is then taken off planet to be investigated. With Nemeroth neutralized and the Orc invasion contained, the mission has been complete. Graia has been saved for now. My final score is a solid 8 out of 10. Now we just have to wait for Space Marine 2 to see how Titus's story continues. All that remains is to say that Warhammer 40K Space Marine is a fantastic, addictive game that, despite many years having passed since its launch, remains fun to this day. Graia remained in Imperial hands. After 2 invasions, it suffered severe damage, with much of the weaponry looted or destroyed. But thanks to the actions of the Ultramarines, Titan Invictus and major facilities, such as Narcissus and Ajax, suffered relatively low damage. Most planetary defense forces were slain, and Cadian 203rd was reduced to a fraction of its manpower. Large numbers of orcs were killed, but the hardest blow was dealt by the death of Warboss Grimskull, which reduced the Orc forces to disorganized mobs. The rest were presumed destroyed by the Liberation Fleet. After the closing of the warp portal and banishment of Nemeroth, his chosen were trapped on Graia and are presumed to be eventually destroyed. Nemeroth's fate is debatable, but it can be presumed he was reborn in the realm of chaos as a demon prince. However, given that the demonhood was given to him for his conquest that later failed, one can only guess what kind of treatment he received from the Chaos Gods. After the events of the main campaign, Titus was eventually allowed to return to the Ultramarines. His charges have garnered him suspicion from his chapter and has been demoted to lieutenant as a result. Titus has undergone the Rubicon Primaris, a process which transforms him from a firstborn Marine into a Primaris Marine. In the next video, we are going to review Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun. Thanks for watching.